Develop a fortune state of mind, state of mind. It's time for a date with, time for a date with the Dorseys.
Hello, and welcome to another Date with the Dorseys. I am Dr. Jatan, and
I am Floyd Dorsey,
the fourth. We are welcoming you back to another date. Now, you're probably wondering if it's your first time, what do you mean by date? Hey, it's just a session with us during our podcast, and we don't just talk about, what is it?
Relationships.
Right.
But this is an intimate moment.
It is. I like the way you put that. I like the way you put that. So that may be, and can be, has been, will be a part of our discussions. However, it's not limited to that. You see, we are here to help you develop and encourage a fortune state of mind within you, your life, your relationships, everything that embodies you and how you be in the world. And the way that we do that is through topics that are tied to one of the 5 F's, and those are family, fun, fitness, finance, and...
Fitness, finance, fun, family.
Family, I think is the one I missed. So the 5 F's, right? So again, our topics will not always be about all of those, one of those, but it could be a culmination. So you just never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates, but it will always be centered around developing a fortune state of mind. But you may be wondering, hey, what are we talking about today, though? What is the topic today?
What is it?
Well, we've been talking about finance, at least our last episode we did, and we want to carry that thing on out, right? We want to continue that discussion and bring to you yet another topic on finance.
Finance. I love finance.
5 F's, right?
I love it.
And again, even though we are talking finance today, we have a topic around the subject of finance. It's probably going to cross over into family or whatever else that we bring into it, right? So don't hold us to just the finance. So just stick with us, and we're going to take you somewhere.
Yeah, just walk with us. Let's go for a walk on our date.
Right. So we're going to talk about holiday spending hangover. And what are we? We are, just into the new year. Yeah. A new year.
And some people will be struggling from that hangover for probably months on end, but
true. But we want to catch that thing right now.
Exactly, let's nip it in the bud.
Hence why we're going to have this discussion today. But again, it's the topic of holiday hangover, and we don't want to just talk about food hangover or beverage hangover, but we're specifically talking about that financial hangover that many may be experiencing, whether it be because of some decisions that you made during the holidays financially that you may not have should not have made is what I was trying to get out.
That's it.
Or something that, you did make the best financial decision, but it still was a little painful to your pocket.
That's
right?
it. Just like any other hangover, right? If we talk about that, what is truly happening that creates the hangover? And for those who indulge in libations, I would say that you're probably making those extreme decisions on the fly, or maybe a little bit intoxicated, and you continue to make a decision under the influence of that intoxication to continue to indulge.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
And so the same thing could happen if you are in the spirit of the holidays. You can ride that emotional wave and find yourself continuing to indulge into spending for whatever reason it may be. We can get to that a little bit later, but I really want to get to the hangover part, because there's something that precipitates or causes the hangover that you're making a conscious decision, and at some point in time, you tend to just ride the wave of that momentum that then leads to that next day or that next month or whatever it may be. But typically it's that next day you're feeling like, what in the world? My head's hurting, my stomach's hurting, I don't know what's going on, I'm in pain. You're hungover.
Well, to your point, it may not just be the next day, it could be the next month,
there we go.
months, year,
especially
whatever.
if it's finance.
Right. But I think I want to leverage what you also mentioned about the influence, if you're under the influence, right? So I think we can kick it off from that. So thank you for that, Mr. Dorsey.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
So So when we talk about being under the influence, I know you were referencing adult beverages, but painting the picture for the audience as to what we truly meant about being under the influence. And if you have been, you know or understand what he was talking about. But when we talk about being under the influence for holiday spending, what came to mind for me was being or feeling pressured to have to purchase gifts, period.
That's that influence.
Right, that's that influence.
Pressure.
Like, this is what we do. And if I go to the holiday family dinner, they are going to be expecting that I bring some gifts.
I got to bring gifts.
I got to bring gifts. So you're under the influence of friends and family.
And that expectation.
Exactly. To bring such things that may not even be within your budget, but because you don't want to be perceived as not participatory or not being able to have or don't have, right. I have to go do what I got to do to make this happen.
When you're walking through the mall around November or so, all the Christmas music starts to play in the mall, and you're feeling that influence that's saying, hey, we're going to intoxicate you just enough, just to put you in the right frame of mind to guide you to spend and buy.
Yeah, or, Black Friday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
we got to be there. Got to stand in the line to get that discount so that we can purchase those very gifts again and we feel like we're under the influence to purchase. So with that being said, the first point I want to drive home is buying things with more of an end-game plan in mind. So when we say that and being under the influence, typically if you're under the influence, you're influenced in a way that you may not have necessarily needed to act or should have acted without that influence being present. So asking yourself around the holidays, again, the holidays have expired, but use this go forward. And it may not even just apply to holidays. It's just spending in general.
That's it.
But when you're making these decisions to purchase things, is it truly something that's going to be beneficial in the end game?
That's right. And some people would take that to say that, of course it is. Right? And you really have to think deep about some of those decisions that you're buying, whom you're buying it for, and the usage and the real value of those things that you're purchasing. And of course, it's always on sale. It's always a great deal. But I'll tell you one thing, that every sale will probably save you money if you would have bought it at the normal price, of course. But if you don't spend it all, then you save all your money.
Exactly.
Right? And the beautiful thing about the holidays and the spending, the holidays come at the same time every year.
Yes.
So you're not held to a particular point in time to do those things. So with that being said, there's a way to carefully plan out those things throughout the year so that you're not hit and left with the hangover at the end. Right?
That's good. And I'd like to throw this out there just to help anyone that is thinking about how can I better plan and prepare for the holidays. As you just mentioned, we know it's coming the same time every year.
Same move.
So there are banks that have what they call a holiday spending account, where you can have an account separate from your checking and your savings that's particularly for holiday spending. You can throw in $5, $10, $15 per month, whatever it is that's within your budget. And they have parameters around the account to where you can only withdraw from the account around the holidays. So I think it's usually nice. Most banks will do like between October and January or, whatever the period is, but it keeps you from pulling out, and it also separates your spending money from your regular money, regular being, again, your savings and your checking, so that when the holiday does roll around, one, this is my budget. This is all I set aside for the year.
And that's it.
So if it ain't in this account,
I like that.
You ain't going to be able to get it.
That's it. It's forcing that discipline.
Yes.
And it's great that, those financial institutions are, have those things in place that people can really use to benefit themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Using that tool to your advantage, I think is a great approach to it, because again, if you have the right discipline, you would get to that point that I've accumulated throughout the year $1,500. Well, $1,500, I'm gonna have to divide that between everybody that's on my list, right? You're getting this $1,500. So
right.
I like that.
So when you're focusing more on the end game, though, let's drive that point home so we can move on to the next, because I know y'all are getting a little hungry out there for what else? What else can I do, right? But when we're talking about the end game, it's truly identifying within these parameters of gifts that you're purchasing, is this really going to be beneficial to me, to the person I'm purchasing it for? Like really thinking through those things and not just buying things just because you're buying things just to say I bought you something for Christmas, right? Mm-hmm. So even for children, for example, most children, within your family may have every gift, every toy, every doll, every.
That's it.
However, we're going to buy more dolls, more what do you call them? I don't know, Tonka trucks or whatever it is.
That's right.
And they open up all of these gifts and, it is a great moment to see the kids happy and enjoying unwrapping.
It's priceless. That's
and the next thing you know, it's either broken, it's lost, or it's just not played with again.
I'm curious to see if people, especially with gifts for children, they did an inventory around let's say Q1, Q2, end of Q1, beginning of Q2, of all the toys and the things that you purchased. Where are they? Mm-hmm. And what's the state and status of those particular items? You
know what? I could see you doing that.
I will do it. Absolutely. Because I would really want to know, was this truly the investment to make if I see it, it's thrown away, it's in the trash?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or where? Like,
right.
Don't even play with it anymore. It's outdated. Like, it was a good moment, a thrill at that time. But now it's gone.
Right. And then even for me, I wouldn't want to have the job of cleaning up all those toys anyway or stepping on the blocks and all that stuff. So I need you to minimize what you bring into my children.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I know I've been struggling with that for a while now. And even brought it up to Mr. Dorsey here. So I know one year we got creative with that and we did go into that direction, which we'll probably continue to do. But I think it was for our nieces, their birthday one year. We got them these big Crayola-shaped piggy banks and filled it up with coins. So we said, hey, this is to start your accounts, and we want to continue to add to that. So I think that was a creative, good idea and something that everyone can start implementing too.
I think with that being said, and here's the thing that a lot of people do, and they'll say, and I, as a child, I would love for my mother and my parents to say this, but I would do anything for my children. I would go broke just so they can have, right? And it's that position when you're a child. You're like, oh wow, my mother, my parents, they love me. They would really go without. They would go broke just so that I can have a real good, impactful moment, right? And with that, what we find is that many people would go broke to pacify instead of grow wealth to solidify, right? So that's the direction or the angle that we have to really shift our minds as we talk about our children and how important they are to us, instead of going broke to give them a temporary moment of gratification to pacify them. Yes. Let's really be more cognizant to give them the framework, a mindset, to give them solutions to grow wealth that will solidify them. So our idea and our approach to that with the Crayolas, the piggy banks, was to say, hey, it's a cool toy. It'd be something that they can play with. But at the same time, let's deposit something in there so that now in the future they'll really have something to build on.
Yeah, that's good. Not only was it beneficial, but it was cute too, for the kids. They want to see something colorful too. And they may not, of course, understand exactly what it was or what it meant. But later down the line, it will make sense, right? And it will be beneficial.
That's it.
So that's what we mean by the end game, right? And of course, we just talked about specifically children gifts, but it all applies to adult gifts as well, right? If mama and them got enough pots and pans, we probably don't need to just go buy some
buy more pots and pans because we saw pots and pans on sale.
Right. And if mama got plenty pots and pans and she ain't cooking, then maybe she just don't need no more pots and pans.
That's it.
But yeah, just ensuring that whatever it is that we decide to spend, you know what? I don't even want to use the word spend because it's currency, right? So what are we?
Currency flows.
It flows, right? Mm-hmm. So what is it that we're depositing or withdrawing that is beneficial to the person that we are doing this for? Is it beneficial?
Is it truly beneficial?
Yes.
Is this something that can help solidify their position, or is it just only something that's going to pacify them, right? And that's really the mindset, I guess, the framework of the methodology and approach that one should consider taking whenever they're looking to purchase gifts, right? And it's always those tricky things, right? I would really want them to have that magical moment because it feels good to see them happy or whoever that person is. But just really think about it in that context. Is this something that's going to be a temporary moment of gratification, or is this something that will help solidify them into whatever it is that they're going, or their vision or their goals or things of that nature?
Yeah.
Just really think about it.
Yeah, so that was one of the points, right? Just buying things that are more beneficial for the end game for the end user. And I think I just referenced the fact of not wanting to use the word spend because of currency, right? And really we want to set ourselves in the mind frame of circulating money, not spending money. However, number 2, the point that I'm going to go into is more about the spending and what the difference is truly between spending and the circulation of money. When you spend it, it's something that's just going to go away from you, right? It's not to be seen again. But as we just mentioned, money is circulation, right? It continues to flow. But it only continues to flow if you use it and manage it properly.
That's it.
So when we talk about the next step, it's more about spending less but circulating more.
Spending less and circulating more.
Circulating more.
I like that. Whenever I think about, that flow of money or currency that's going, I have to recognize, am I in a position to really continue that flow? And if I am not, then I will have to ask myself, before I do any what we call spending or do anything like that, how do I get better position in the flow so money can continue to circulate to me and through me so that I can then be truly in position to enrich the lives of others? And really what we're doing this for, I think sometimes giving can be a very selfish thing, right? Because we look at it, if you really look at it, what we're saying is that sometimes there's a position that someone may need something, so you'll do those things. But oftentimes you're in a position that I want to feel something because I feel so good. I receive this shot of dopamine when I give something to somebody, right? And I want that feeling to see them happy or see them receive gives me this intoxicating feeling. And so we can get so caught up and wrapped into that moment that we are caught up in the spend instead of the circulation. And so to that point, you want to make sure that you continue to maintain that position of being in that flow of the currency so that you can properly deposit into the lives of others.
That's good. So just understanding that you are worth the funds, right?
That's it.
Just creating that, not only that mantra, but the belief that money comes to you naturally. It flows through you naturally. You attract money. You don't spend money. You circulate money, and you manage money well. Like all the positive things that you can think about the money. But again, we're talking about holiday spending hangover, but you got all these months that lead up to the holiday that we're trying to make sure that you transition your mindset about so that you're more prepared for the holiday.
That's right. It comes at the same time every year. Yes. So you can start planning and preparing
now, today.
Right now.
Although, again, you have that hangover. Some of you may, and you're trying to recover as well. So we'll get on that on the third point. But when we talk about the circulation of money and how we're just trying to, paint the picture of how you need to look at money, the relationship you need to have with the money, it makes me think of, and I think I mentioned this guy to you before, that I was listening to some of his recordings, Reverend Ike.
I thought you was going to say Floyd or... Okay, go ahead. Go forth. But go ahead.
Yes, he said go forth.
No, I said the forth.
Oh, the forth. Oh. So what he mentioned was very interesting. He said that money has ears and money is female.
That's interesting.
So as he continued to explain this thing, he says that money is a classy lady and she is very possessive and gets offended easily. So the way that you think about and talk about money in turn impacts the way that money comes to you or if it comes to you. So if you're thinking about, not necessarily that you have to think about it as a female, but think about money as a relationship. You
really
do now?
I do now.
See, it probably works for you. So for someone else, if it doesn't work, make it that person that you truly care about, right? And how would that person feel if you talk negatively about that person, right? Saying that, I spend the money, I waste the money, I don't have money, I can't pay my bills, I got too many bills. When you put that
money
type of...
is evil.
Yes,
right?
That's a good one. Money is evil. When you put things out there like that, that's how it returns to you. And so that's what you start to establish in your mind and believe about money. So when you change the way that you think about money from it being something that you just spend and it goes and it never comes back and I struggle to get it, that's how it's going to manifest in your life.
That's it. I mean, money is currency, like energy, right? Just like energy that we exhibit, we deposit, we give, it flows through us and from us. It's the same way, right? It's going to circulate. And you want to give off the energy that you expect to receive. Give off what you expect to receive back. And if you're maintaining that mantra, money will be just that thing, that beautiful lady, that classy lady, as you mentioned. Respect her, right?
Right, absolutely.
Speak highly of her.
That's good. So, when we talk about, the whole money aspect, it's important to look at it as a circulation. It's going to come back to you. You're going to continue to do great things in your life that attract the money. You manage the money well when it comes to you, so it flows not only through you, but your family and anyone else that's close to you. Yeah,
I think about the holiday hangover with that. I was just thinking, have I had one? And I can't really say that I have, probably because I'm pretty tight to the dollar. But at the same time, I love to express my appreciation and gratitude and love for others. But I have been in situations growing up, and our means were a little meager. And I just know for a fact that we experienced that as a family because of how much my parents, they really cared, and they wanted to give this thing to us. They want to have that moment for them to say I was able to provide for my children, but they also want that feeling for us to have that experience of things. And as I look back about just things, I really, it really comes to me that it wasn't the things, right? It was truly about the feeling, the love, the time with them, the moments that I really remember. Because I can't remember very many gifts, right? Except for a Nintendo I got a long time ago. But I can't. But as a child, and I think back, it really wasn't about just truly the gifts. It was so many other experiences around that. So as you're debating or contemplating, what should I spend? What should I buy? I mean, time, appreciation, love, a great meal, all those things go so much further because when I look back and think about those precious moments that impacted my life, the gifts are certainly not at the top of my list.
That's huge. I would have to agree. That reminds me of a childhood memory when there was a year or two that we didn't celebrate Christmas in that way.
Okay,
and you know what? It is not the first time. Okay. But I tell you what, my dad will say it's the first time because every time I try to remind him of it, he's like, "No, we did not."
Yeah, I think you're just making this all up. No, you have to stick with the facts.
But the thing for me, I guess, that was slightly different is that I was an only child. And so pretty much I got what I needed or even what I wanted throughout the year. So it wasn't that big of a deal to, not get gifts on that day. But to your point, I recall those days and those holidays when all the kids, all the cousins and aunts and uncles would come together and we would open the gifts. And that was what stuck with me. And even if it was the 1 year or the 2 years, I know it happened. I just don't know if it was 2 years or just the one. It didn't impact me in a way that was negative. It was like, now I truly know the meaning behind it, right?
That's it. The value,
right.
The love, the time. Now, those things are truly precious. And again, I know that we have great, phenomenal parents that are listening. And trust me, I know how valuable and how important it is to make sure your children, your family, whomever it is, have the things that you feel that they want, right? Off their list, off their, if it's Christmas list or whatever it may be for their birthday wishes. I know how important it is because you want, and we all want, our children to have much more than we did, right? And I think that's one of the ideas and notions we use to really justify our decision making. I want them to have so much more and so much better than I did. And I go back to an earlier point where I just said, don't go broke to pacify, grow wealth to solidify. So if you truly want them to have what you didn't have or have so much more, then grow wealth, right? Go all out to grow wealth for them instead of going out all out to go broke for them. And I think that, again, that mindset, that shift will really be something that's much more sustainable, right? That solidification will be much more sustaining for their growth, for their children and grandchildren, and so forth and so on. So let's shift that mindset. Let's change the way that we are approaching, one, how we spend, but two, how we do it, particularly around the holidays.
Yeah. So we've talked about, first, buying those things that have more of a benefit in the end game for whomever it is that we're purchasing for. And then we talked about the differences between spending versus circulating. I want to close out with the recovery from the holidays.
Recovery.
Since we're talking about hangovers, I mean, what do we need? Some aspirin? Like
something,
some
right?
Like, what do we need to do?
Some water.
Right, to rebalance this thing so we can go into this new year more effective, right? More productive and more prepared for the next holiday.
That's it.
And of course, many of us and many of you listening have things that are coming up, right? Whether it be tax returns, whether it be tuition reimbursement,
bonuses,
whether it be
all those things. Right?
You have all this that you're planning on, and all too often, people plan for that. Like they say, I'm going to spend this around the holiday because I know that that's going to come, and then I'm just going to be back in the same place,
that's
right?
It.
You're just breaking even, or you're just even more broke.
I like that.
So how do we recover? What would you say, to the audience, about recovering from the holiday spending after that, knowing that these other funds are likely to come?
The first thing I'd say, it's going to sound a little painful, but you need to endure and embrace that hangover. You need to feel it. I mean, really feel it, because that's the only way that you would truly know the full depth and breadth of what you just did or the decisions you made. And then at that point, once you really understood what led you to the point of where you are and recognize all the trappings, all the intoxicating things that was around you that influenced you to make that decision, then you can chart out a better plan on how you can then be prepared in the event that these things come again. Again, as I mentioned, they come at the same time every year.
Every year.
So once you endure and feel the breadth and depth of that pain, then you can start to say, okay, I recognize my decisions. I know what those decisions lead to. I know that I don't want to feel like this anymore. Right? It was the most worst excruciating headache or whatever it may be that I've ever had. Right? I'm not drinking anymore, or whatever it may be, right? I'm not going to do that thing anymore. Or it is, I know how to now do it in moderation. I know how to be more prepared. And that's where the planning comes in, right? Creating a real structured plan. And again, I recommend for all of you to go to the other podcast where we talked about finances and creating a budget. But this is your plan to help you recover, but it's also the plan to help you sustain and grow and not be back in the situation that you're in.
All right. So start there with that budget and lining up with what it is that you plan for the year and not going outside of that. So if I had to use one word about recovering from the holidays, it would be stop. Just stop it. Now it's two words. It just grew. Stop it.
Stop it. And just stop it. One, two, three.
Yes. Because most often if you're experiencing that hangover, it's not the first time. And you continue to see or to perpetuate this habit that is detrimental to not only you, but your family in whole. So, to Floyd's point here, my husband.
The fourth.
The fourth. I have to add that. He cleared me up.
Be honest.
To his point, referring back to our other episode where we talk about budgeting, that's really where you start.
That's it.
So stop what you did and start on that episode. Yes.
That's it.
I mean, it sounds, I don't know. We laugh about it, but it really is that.
It's a serious matter.
It is, because we continue to create this cycle, and then those that look up to you are seeing the same cycle. So you're just continuing this along, right? So what are you going to do to make that difference, not only for you and your bottom line, but for your family as well?
That's it. Now that you heard this great information, what are you going to do about it? Right? And when do you take action? And I'd say it's always now.
Yeah.
I don't care if you hear this for the first time 2 years from now. The moment is always now. Let's get it.
Listen to him. He said, let's get it. So I guess that is the end of this. We just dropped all our bombs for today. So again, we were talking about holiday spending, the hangover version, right? We talked about buying things that are more beneficial for the in-game value, circulating versus spending, and then also that holiday recovery. If you are tuning in for the first time, make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Dem Darn Dorseys. That's DEM Darn Dorseys. You can also email us at support@fortuneenterprise.com. It's IVTUNE enterprise.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Love it.
We'd also want to see you sharing, liking, listening to all of our episodes, and making sure that you don't just stop here. If you like what you heard, which I know you did, go and listen to all of our previous episodes. So with that being said,
close out queen. Okay.
See, he always got to call your girl out. Why he got to do that? But no, thank you again for hanging out with us, and we look forward to you tuning in for our next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.
Develop a fortune state of mind, state of mind. It's time for a date with, time for a date with the Dorseys.